Okay, today I'm going to show you the various pastels we're using and how important it is to separate them from warm to cool colors. In this case we have the pink and the red. The pink is more warm than the red because that red has more bluish tone. The next example is orange. The one on the left hand side is warmer because it has a little bit more of the yellow, and the one on the right has the deeper red. Now yellow can be considered warm or cool because it's kind of like a neutral, bright, intense tone. And the green, when you compare both of those, the yellow-green has more yellow, the other one has a deeper, darker, cooler green-blue, so that's on the right hand side for the cools. The next one is that nice sky blue, which is warm, compared to the deeper, darker blue, which has some violet. And last but not least is the violet tone with the kind of ultramarine violet blue, which is darker as well. So those are the rainbow colors of the warm cools, which are really essential for our color value scales. The next ones on the sideline will be the peach, the gray, and the white. These on the sidelines offer some blending opportunities for our grayscale. So, the first question is, grayscale, how do we mix the grayscale? In the past, we learned to mix grayscales using mostly black and white. I'm actually going to teach you how to do grayscales with primary colors. So primary colors are the red, yellow, and blue, adding some white. So we need both the warm and cool of each. So from here on, warm color and warm plus cool color. Great, so let me get my starting lineup. It will look like this: warm red, cool red, the yellow, warm blue, cool blue, and a little bit of white and gray later as needed. Awesome. So now what you're going to do is, as you know, the W stands for warm. And we know, based on what we organized earlier, that it's the warm, it's the pink, the yellow, and this blue. Essentially what we need to do is have all those colors layered on top of each other, starting very warm and light to progressively middle tone to darker tone, because that's the darkest. You can mix some really colorful, beautiful blacks using primary colors. You're also going to mix some really beautiful light grays for your highlights. So this value scale, even though it's called a gray scale, is different than what you might traditionally used, where there was a lot of black and white. Here we're using the primary colors. We're first going to start off using the warm tones of the red, yellow, blue. So as I get started, one thing that's so important is that I know that the value scale is my lightest tones. So with that being said, start at number 1. I'm going to use the yellow. Start really light. I suggest using the side very lightly. Then going to the second one, still a light tone, but just a little bit more pressure. And this is going to take time. The lightest tones, step 1, 2, and 3, the lightest tones are actually the most challenging because you still want to get the color down, but you can't add too much pressure because it will get too dark and read as a shadow shape, not as a light tone. So you want to be very patient when you're applying these colors. Here I'm going to go for the middle tone, add a little bit more pressure. And try to do even pressure if you can, the side of the pastel, and then heavier as you go. Okay. Great, so as you can tell, it just looks like yellow. It has nothing to do with gray because I haven't had a chance to do all the layers, but you can tell it does get progressively lighter to mid-tone to darker just within the yellow. This yellow is a kind of a combination of warm and cool because it's the kind of the can be on both sides, that yellow, whereas the next one I'm going to use, right now I'm going to use the warm pink just for the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 layers. I'm going to use pink. I still have to have that same mindset where I'm going to start off really kind of light, barely grazing it, using the side of the pastel. Just kind of threading it lightly, nice and even if you can. Moving on to the next step, a little heavier. A little bit heavier. Might involve a little bit more pink, likewise as well. Great, so essentially I use the yellow and the warm red, which in this case is the pink, because I said that in order to mix the gray scale, you have to use red, yellow, blues, eventually add some white. The first 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 are warm colors of the red, yellow, blue. Next up will be the warm blue. Again, this is the beautiful sky blue. Very light tone as you go. And I might need to work on that gray mixture more, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to use a little yellow, again the warm yellow, and just kind of go over that again. If you go over that a second layer, believe it or not, it starts graying out. You can see a little bit more gray tones. Now what I'm going to do I'm just going to go over it a little bit as well. Again, you have to be careful of the pressure. You don't want to add too heavy. Our natural instinct is to add very hard pressure throughout. But I actually did a second layer. I can already see the kind of natural, beautiful primary color gray kind of happen once I did like a second layer of the yellow, blue, pink combo. Okay. Now the next thing is that we have to use on 4, 5, and 6. We have to use warm plus cool. I only use the warm of the primaries over here. Now I have to use the cools, which is this red, this blue, and again this yellow is a combination of the two. I only do it at 4, 5, and 6. I don't do it 1, 2, 3 because those are the lighter tones. So what I do that helps me out just to kind of stay organized here is I'm actually going to take this and just kind of go through it so we know what we're dealing with. Okay, so there's actually more layers on 4, 5, and 6 in this situation. We're going to add some blue. Again, that's like a middle shadow shape. A little heavier, and a little heavier as we go. And some red tones. Now again, it's going to look really colorful. You can always have to adjust it a little bit with the yellow. And then just to kind of get that mixture down. It's a little easier to do actually with painting. Oil pastel, it does take longer. You have to work on that a bit more. Okay. Now the next step that we can do is we haven't used these white and gray tones. Okay, so it's like, oh, why don't we just use white and gray? Well, I want to really bring home the point that using beautiful colors can help create really nice undertones of the white and gray. I'm going to use a little bit of white on the lightest tone, which is the highlight, just to kind of give it a lighter tone, right? Likewise, not too much, but just a little bit here as well. And then I'm going to go in and add some really light tone here. It's like a light middle tone on top of that beautiful color. Likewise as here too. I know I didn't fill it the whole rectangle, but I just wanted to show you how you can really create some lovely gray tones using primaries and white. So again, the cool red, cool blue, kind of taking over here. Just kind of add another layer, really made it look really nice and enriching. If you get too colorful, like too blue, then use the opposite, the yellow, the red, to balance it out. Likewise, I'm going to that looks pretty nice and dark, but the other one doesn't look as dark. So you can add a little gray here. Might add a little bit more as well. So if I add a little red, then I have to add a little bit of the yellow. The cool red and the cool yellow and the cool blue to give it a little more darker tones. Then a little bit gray just to gray it down a bit. Okay? So far it's a colorful gray here and there. Then I take my final layer and I just take that gray and blend it. So I'm using that, again, not heavy pressure, but a little bit of pressure, just to kind of give it that gray that we awesome. So again, the important point here is that primary grays involve primary colors, red, yellow, and blue, with a little bit of white. First, you have to use the warm colors for all steps, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6 of the value scale. Then you take that half and you add warm plus cool, so this actually has a total of 6 layers using the warm yellow, warm red, warm blue, as well as the cool red, cool yellow, and cool blue. As it gets closer to the right-hand side, you have to add a lot more physical pressure. As it gets closer to the light, you use very little. Okay? Just some gentle reminders. You want to make sure that you peel all your papers of your pastels. Keep them organized where it says warm and cool for the columns, and make sure you do a good job cleaning them with paper towels so that they don't get cross-contaminated with color. Great. Thank you for tuning in.